right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of D&D Deep Dive, the show where we dive deep into classes, subclasses, and other features of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons to help you get the most out of your choices. So, today, we are going to walk the holy path. That's right, we are going to dive into the new optional class features and one of the new subclasses for clerics in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Clerics in general, just as a very, very brief review of how 5th edition class design works. Every class should play very differently right from the beginning, and they will have these things called defining features, which are what make that class play uniquely. Those defining features should show up within the first two levels. For the Cleric, their defining features are actually a little bit unique, mostly because their subclass is actually one of their defining features, because they choose their subclass right at level 1, and it will actually change how you play the class. So one of their defining features is their domain. And I'm really quickly, yeah. And then the second kind of defining feature of the cleric, other than their spellcasting, obviously, is channel divinity. Now, channel divinity is something that the cleric shares with the paladin. They both get channel divinities. However, the channel divinity for the cleric is designed to just be a little bit used more often. Clerics get multiple uses of their channel divinity. By the 6th level, they get 2 per rest, and then at 18th level, they get the 3 per rest. So they're supposed to be using them a little bit more often than paladins are. The other kind of unique thing about clerics is paladins, both of their channel divinities are decided by their subclass. However, for clerics, their channel divinity, all of them have the same channel divinity, and then one additional or sometimes 2 additional channel divinities they get from their subclass. But every single cleric can do what's called turning undead. This is a classic cleric ability, goes way back to original D&D, and effectively what it is they present their holy symbol, and any undead creatures have to make a save. If they fail the save, they're what's called turned, which means they have to spend their action running away, and if they can't run away, they have to spend their action either getting out of whatever is preventing them from running away, or taking the dodge action. It is really, really effective, especially when you're fighting things like hordes of zombies, or anything like that, because it doesn't just, like the fear of effect, gives them disadvantage on attack rolls, and they can't move closer to the cleric. This, however, literally takes away their actions, their bonus actions, their reactions. It effectively takes them out of combat for up to a minute. And since most combat is over within about 4 to 6 rounds in 5th edition, that's effectively for the entirety of combat, they are done. And depending on how far they run, you may not have to deal with them at all. So, yeah, it's a defining cleric thing. And, yeah. So, Let's actually dive into the optional class features into the Tasha's cauldron of everything. First things first, as with all spellcasting classes, one of the optional features is additional cleric spells. This is how clerics get access to new Tasha spells. But the unique thing about this is clerics only get access to two new spells from Tasha's, which are Spirit Shroud and Summon Celestial. All the rest of the spells that they get access to through these this optional feature are all spells that they never had before. Three of them are aura spells, which used to be exclusive to the paladin and a couple subclasses. And then they get Sunbeam and Sunburst, which are arcane wizard and sorcerer spells. But because they are sun themed and, most most campaign settings have like a deity of the sun. It kind of makes sense. They do radiant damage, which is a cleric thing, and then the final one they get access to is Power Word Heal, which is a 9th level ability that effectively just gives a creature that you can touch all their hit points. It removes most status conditions from it. It lets it stand up if it's a prone. Like, it is a mega heal. And to me, it's actually really surprising that clerics didn't have Power Word Heal before, because previous editions of D&D, the Power Word spells have always been really, really powerful. And I could have sworn clerics got Power Word Heal. But in 5th edition, up until this, it's been exclusively a bard spell. So, interesting. The second level optional feature you can get is Harness Divine Power. Now, we talked about this particular ability when we went over the Paladin, because it's literally, this is the same thing. You can expend a use of your channeled divinity to fuel your spells. As a bonus action, you touch your holy symbol, and you regain 1 expended spell slot, the level which can be no higher than half your proficiency bonus. So 3rd level is the highest it can be. The number of times you can use this feature is based on the level you've reached in this class. 2nd level once, 6th level twice, 18th level thrice. And you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Now, if those levels sound familiar, those are the levels that clerics get their channel divinities. So Harness Divine Power is 100% written for clerics. As I mentioned in my Paladin video, I don't think it should be a Paladin spell. This just kind of fits into the idea that Channel Divinity is a defining feature for the cleric, and it lets them use it even in even more different ways, and helps to fuel their spell casting, which is another kind of defining thing. They are the divine spellcasters. Yeah, I like Hardest Divine Power as a cleric optional ability. I don't like it as a paladin. I don't think it fits. The 4th level cleric optional feat is the only optional feat other than the ranger optionals that actually replaces an ability instead of just adding a new optional feature. The 4th level one is called Cantrip Versatility. And basically, whenever you reach a level in this class that grants... I'm thinking of the wrong one. We'll get to that in a second. 4th level is just Cantrip Versatility, which is whenever you reach a level in this class that grants ability score and improvement feature, you can replace a cantrip you learned from this class's spellcasting feature with another cantrip from the cleric spell list. Again, I've talked about this particular versatility thing, martial versatility, cantrip versatility, all those things. I'm for it. The way you play your class at level 1 is going to be very different than the way you played at level 4, at level 8, at level 16. So it does make sense, and I like things that allow you to kind of course correct your class. So I'm always a fan of that. The next one is the one that actually replaces a feature, and the unique thing about it is it actually replaces a feature in a subclass, not a main class. Again, kind of driving home the fact that one of the defining features of the Cleric is their subclass. It's why they get it right at level 1. The 8th level of optional feature is called Blessed Strikes. And it will actually replace either Divine Strike or Potent Spellcasting, which we'll actually go over when we talk about the Order domain, which is the domain we'll be talking about for in this video. But basically, as I've mentioned in my cleric videos before, there are basically two flavors of clerics. There are cantrip clerics and there are weapon clerics. And generally, the way you know which one you have is you look at the 8th level of ability for your domain, your subclass. If it has divine strikes, your particular subclass is going to be geared a little bit more towards your cleric being more on the front lines, going in and fighting toe-to-toe, actually using their weapon. And a lot of times, divine domains that have divine strike will also give you proficiency in heavy armor, just to make it easier for you to be able to kind of wander into combat. On the other side, potent spellcasting is used for cleric domains that are designed to be a little bit more caster focused. We are designed to be more of a divine caster and casting spells from afar, things like that. The difference between them is with divine strike, you do extra radiant damage whenever you hit something. With potent spellcasting, you do extra radiant damage whenever you cast a cleric cantrip. That's the only difference between them, is where you're getting the extra damage. With blessed strikes, it basically just blends both of them together. So when a creature takes damage from one of your cantrips or weapon attacks, you can also deal 1d8 radiant damage to that creature. Once you deal this damage, you can't use this feature again until the start of your next turn. So it's a once per turn thing, which is how it works with the other ones as well for the most part. And it works on either weapon attacks or cantrips. So it gives you a little bit more versatility. For me personally, though, because of how the subclasses are created and how their abilities kind of work together, the Divine Strike and the potent spellcasting don't really need to be blended together, because if your subclass would normally give you Divine Strike, you're not really going to be switching to casting a whole lot. The rest of your subclass is built around kind of being up in front for combat, so you don't really need extra damage on your cantrips, and you play just fine without it. And the same is true about potent spellcasting, but the opposite. You know, if you're getting potent spellcasting, your subclass is already kind of designed to work as a spellcaster more than a melee fighter. So I just really don't kind of see the point for this, because all it's doing is giving you an additional option for something you're not really built to do. I'm not saying it wouldn't be useful. It probably would be. But I just don't see it being anywhere near as useful as other things. It feels like they're just adding additional options for the sake of adding additional options. So yeah, those are the optional features. Like I said, for the most part, they're pretty good. You know, additional cleric spells are fine. Harness Divine Power, I think, is a very cleric kind of thing. Cantrip Versatility, I'm always a fan of. And then Blessed Strikes, I just don't like it. I don't think it fits with the design of the subclasses or anything like that. I think it was just an extra thing that probably some people complained about on Twitter or something. They're like, well, why not just give them both? But it doesn't throw me, I probably wouldn't allow it at my table. All right, so now let's jump into the order domain. As I said before, domains are unique in the fact that you get to choose them right at first level. There's only one other class that chooses their subclass at first level, and that is the sorcerer. And they're very, very different kind of packages, to be honest, where the sorcerer is all about kind of intrinsic kind of casting and changing things on the fly. Innate casting, that was the word I was looking for. The cleric is much more kind of formalized. One of the unique things about clerics is they prepare spells every day. They pray for their spells, but every morning they can choose whatever spells they want from the cleric's spell list. So they have the complete option of all cleric spells available to them every single day. They just have to pick what they want to do in the morning. Very similar to druids, where they just get to prepare whatever spells they want that day, and the next day they can do something different. Yeah, the domain is going to influence which spells you're going to be picking. We'll also add, other things like that, and really kind of shape and define how your cleric is going to play. So let's dive into the actual abilities of the order domain. So first things first. And I guess I should explain what the order is. Order, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's order, it's discipline. More likely than not, clerics that are order discipline are going to be lawful in their alignment because they like rules, they like laws. I do find it interesting. They give a list of order deities for various campaign settings. They've got Eberron, Dragonlance, and Greyhawk, and Forgotten Realms, because those are all really, really popular. And they actually have 2 different Forgotten Realms and 2 different Greyhawk. But the thing that really threw me off about the Forgotten Realms is the 2 deities they list for order domain deities are Tyr, which makes perfect sense, because Tyr is the god of, I think, justice? If I remember correctly. Forgotten Realms. Tyr. Come on. Tyr. Yeah, the god of justice is what he is considered, and his domains are order and war. So that makes perfect sense. But the other one that they mention is Bane, who's the god of murder. And I assume part of his portfolio is the domain, or the order domain, but it just seems weird that the god of murder is an order deity. It's weird. Anyway, so let's actually now dive into the various subclass features. So at first level, you get your domain spells. Every domain gives you access to a few extra spells. These spells are always prepared. Some of them are not even cleric spells, so it gives you access to new things. And they don't count against the spells that you can prepare every day. So these are just spells that you can just always use. And they make sense, to be blunt. You have Command, Heroism, Hold Person, which is super, super useful. Mass Healing Word, Dominate Person, stuff like that. Yeah, nothing too fancy, really simple. The additional, another thing you get it for first level is you get bonus proficiencies. You actually get proficiency in heavy armor, which fits with the idea that this is going to be a melee focused cleric. Spoiler alert, You do get Divine Strike as your 8th level domain feature. So yes, this is a melee focused cleric. In addition to proficiency with heavy armor, you also gain proficiency in the intimidation or persuasion skill, your choice. So both of them charisma based, very much kind of an edict, controlling to the kind of thing. And when you look at the domain spells as well with the bonus proficiencies, you do have a lot of kind of influence based spells. You have command, you have compulsion, dominate person. These are all things that kind of force people to do your will. So the order domain itself does have that kind of commanding presence, feel to it. The last thing you get at first level is Voice of Authority. If you cast a spell with a spell slot of first level or higher and target an ally with the spell, that ally can use their reaction immediately after the spell to make one weapon attack against a creature of your choice that you can see. And if the spell targets more than one ally, you choose the ally who can make the attack. This is really, really big. I talk about a lot about the action economy because it's really important in 5th edition. And basically, whichever side has more things they can do, more actions, they have the advantage. And one of the things that every character has access to is a reaction, which is basically an action that you do on someone else's turn. But reactions require a trigger. And most classes, the only trigger they have is to do what's called an opportunity attack, which is when a creature leaves your attack range. However, having played it for years and years and years, opportunity attacks just don't happen a ton. And that means a lot of the times people don't use their reactions, which means they're not helping their team out. You want to use, if you can, you want to use your move action every single turn. You want to use your action every turn, your bonus action every turn. The more things you can do, the better your team is going to do. With Voice of Authority, the cleric can not only kind of do their cleric job of healing people, applying buffs and the things like that, but they can also use that to cause their allies to be able to use their reaction. So you get this really, really nice kind of double the thing where you need to heal someone, but at the same time you're healing them, they also get to turn your action into an attack. And if you use it correctly, it can turn into something really, really useful. Things like giving it to a paladin can allow them to smite when it's not there to turn. Giving it to a rogue can allow the rogue to get their sneak attack damage, because sneak attack you can only do once per turn. But once the rogue's turn is over and someone else is taking their turn, the rogue can do a sneak attack again. So by using like maybe a healing spell or Armor of Faith on a rogue, they can actually sneak attack twice per turn. Now, because clerics are a spellcasting class, if they are only using their spells to cast beneficial things on their allies, it means they're not using their spells to attack enemies, which can be really, really powerful. Depending on how you build your cleric, they can be devastating, nuking kind of spellcasters. So as much as Voice of Authority is really, really good for action economy and things like that, it's not quite so overpowered that you're going to be doing it every single turn instead of like attacking with your cleric or something like that, because there are other ways you can use your spell slots that will be more beneficial to you in certain situations. So it gives you choices, and it effectively means you're never really punished for healing an ally, because your ally is always going to be able to make a an attack. And because it's a weapon attack, not a melee attack, you can have them do ranged attacks and things like that. So, yeah, really, really useful. Amazing way to kind of allow the cleric to still be doing damage or allowing damage on their turn, even when they need to be playing, healer. So, yeah, super cool. At second level, you get the other channel divinity option for the order domain, and that channel divinity is orders demand. As an action, you present your holy symbol, and each creature of your choice that can see or hear you within 30 feet of you must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you until the end of your next turn or until the charmed creature takes any damage. You can also cause any of the charmed creatures to drop what they are holding when they fail this as a saving throw. So, this does a number of things. The charm condition, a lot of people don't really understand because the charm condition, when monsters use it, doesn't normally just inflict the charmed condition. It also will inflict other things, like very similar to dominate person and the things like that, where the creature can convince you to do things or control you in some way. That's not really what Charm does. Charmed, literally all it does is a charmed creature can't attack the charmer or target the charmer with harmful abilities or magical effects, and the charmer has advantage on any ability check to interact socially with the creature. So effectively, the charm makes it so that the cleric can't be attacked by any of the people it's just charmed, which isn't that big a deal because the charm ends as soon as they take the damage. And the enemies that they charm can still attack their allies. However, the ability to force them to drop whatever it is they're holding is a big deal. Disarming your opponent can change a monster stat block where they have, 2d10 plus, 16 damage anytime they attack to 1 plus 5 damage anytime they attack, because they have to use unarmed strikes instead of the wicked magic sword that they were using. And as long as your ally can go before the enemy, interacting with an object and picking it up is a free action. So picking up a sword that's on the ground, they can do, and thus the enemy no longer has a weapon available to them, which can be especially useful if you're fighting enemies that are using magic items, which is relatively rare, but it does happen, especially in pre-written adventures with like bosses and the things like that. They will sometimes have some really, really powerful weapons. So yeah. It's not the absolute most useful channel divinity thing I've ever heard of, but being able to make the entire enemy team drop their weapons is a really big deal. So yeah, there's a time and a place for it. Going to 6th level, you get Embodiment of the Law. If you cast a spell of the enchantment school using a spell slot of 1st level or higher, you can change the spell's casting time to 1 bonus action for this casting, providing the spell's casting time is normally 1 action, and you can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, regain all uses when you finish a long rest. This is really, really big. The only class that can change spells into bonus actions is normally the sorcerer, and they have some pretty specific limits on what they can do. This basically allows the cleric to cast any enchantment spell that they have as a bonus action, which again, since this cleric is a melee cleric and in 2 levels will be getting extra damage, that can mean that they can go forward and attack with their weapon, and then also cast an enchantment spell. Now, the one kind of limitation to this, there's exactly 10 enchantments as spells in the Cleric's spell book for or 10 enchantment spells period. Um, and and two of them, Motivational Speech and Gaius, both take a minute to cast, so they can't actually do that. But as far as the rest of the spells, here are some spells that you can now cast as a bonus action. Command, make them drop the shield that's making them harder to hit. Hold person, cast paralysis on them, then any melee attack made within 5 feet now is an auto crit. Which, when you combine that with what they're getting into the 2 levels, means they do lots of damage. In addition to that, they actually get from their domain spells, they get Dominate Person, which is an enchantment spell that costs 1 action to cast. So, with a combination of the domain spells that they get and the ones they already have, this could be really, really powerful. And like I said, because they are already a melee-based cleric, that ability to bonus action cast hold person can be devastating. Speaking of that, at 8th level, they get Divine Strike. We talked about before, basically, once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can cause the attack to deal an extra d8 of psychic damage, and when you reach 14th level, the extra damage increases to 2d8. So you do extra damage. The nice thing about this is, due to the fact that crits will double the number of dice that you roll, that will mean if you cast Hold Person as a bonus action, then go up and make an attack. First of all, you're going to have advantage on the attack, so you're a very good chance you're going to hit. Second of all, now until 14th level, you're doing an extra 2d8 psychic damage to it. And once you hit 14th level, you're doing an extra 4d8 because it's an auto crit. And that's on top of your weapon damage. This cleric can very, very quickly get smite level damage. And in addition to that, using Hold Person will help out all the rest of your allies. If you've got a rogue with you, they're going to be able to double their sneak attack damage. If you got a paladin with you, they're going to be able to use their smite and double the damage on that. This can really, really, really snowball quickly into just ungodly amounts of damage. And if the creature lives long enough to get a turn and isn't able to make their save at the end of their next turn, you can use your spells, because you can't cast 2 leveled spells in the same turn, but you can cast a spell the next turn on your rogue and basically give them another sneak attack, or on your paladin and give them another crazy smite. This snowballs so fast and turns this order cleric into a damage-dealing powerhouse, not just from their own abilities, but from what they can do with their allies. So really, 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 really powerful, especially once you get that 8th level ability. Finally, we have Order's Wrath, which is the 17th level of ability. Which is basically, if you deal Divine Strike damage to a creature on your turn, you can curse that creature until the start of your next turn. The next time one of your allies hits the cursed creature with an attack, the target also takes 2d8 psychic damage, and the curse ends. You can curse a creature in this way only once per turn. Okay, so now you can add an extra 2d8 psychic damage to another ally's attack, which again, if we combine that with Hold Person, which you can now cast as a bonus action, that's 4d8 if they hit while they're within 5 feet. Seriously, this cleric turns into a death dealer. It is just so incredibly powerful what they can do. And And it all kind of hinges on the hold person, but hold person is a second level spell. It's something that they're going to be able to cast at second level, and then at third and fourth and fifth. And whenever you cast hold person at higher levels spell slots, you can target one additional humanoid for each slot above second. So you cast it at fourth level, you can target 3 different creatures. That's really big. That means one bonus action can ensure you are doing crit damage for a number of turns, even if one of them happens to die from the massive amount of damage. So, yeah, super powerful. So, final thoughts. I really like the Order domain, mostly because of just how much synergy there is with their abilities. Things that don't seem like they fit together much when you're reading them at first, like Voice of Authority, you get to give an attack to another character. Okay, that's kind of useful. But when you start dealing with Embodiment of the Law and Divine Strike and Orders of Wrath, you see that all of those abilities fit together to basically increase your party's damage output by a ton. And it just turns into this really awesome creature. It would be the kind of class that I would not want to piss off. Like, I could definitely see someone playing an Order Domain Cleric as just that guy that kind of walks around and is like, no, I'm perfectly fine. But they just have that little look about them where eventually they go, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. You piss me off and I will end you. You know, I mean, that's just the kind of feeling I get from this Cleric. And I think it'd be super awesome. Like, wow. Like, I want to play an Order Domain Cleric now, because you would just be able to decimate the battlefield. Yeah. Anyway, that is going to be all for me today. As always, if you enjoyed this, please hit the like button. It really does mean a lot. And hit the subscribe button, because I don't have a lot of subscribers, and it makes me feel special. In addition to that, hit the notification bell and turn notifications on, because every so often I put out videos at weird times. And this way you will never, ever have to miss any of my videos. In the comments down below, what do you think would be the most badass thing an Order Cleric could say when they are using their embodiment of the law? Like, go full out. What is the badass line from like an 80s action flick that you want to hear an Order Cleric say? Put that in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that is all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.